Hello, it is 3 p.m. local time here in Hanoi. You're tuning into VTV News. I'm Choi Seung, and here are the headlines for this hour. Prime Minister attends the World Economic Forum on East Asia 2014. Foreign direct investment enterprises secured by government support. And later on, we'll take a look at how Cham Island is striving to preserve the seas. We'll now begin with the top news happening here. Now, State President Cheng Ten-sang today received the Senior Vice President of ExxonMobil, Peter Clark, and Raymond Jones, who are in Vietnam to discuss cooperation agreements with the Vietnam Oil and Gas Group. The guests spoke to President Sang about the work they have been doing with their Vietnamese counterparts and expressed their wish for support from the Vietnamese government to accelerate other cooperation programs this year and trade commitments in the future. President Sang stressed that Vietnam always welcomes and facilitates U.S. businesses to implement cooperation programs with the Vietnam Oil and Gas Group and asked the two sides to effectively implement trade commitments this year. Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng today attended the World Economic Forum on East Asia 2014, also known as the WEF East Asia, at the invitation of Philippine President Benigno Aquino and Executive Chairman of the World Economic Forum. The Prime Minister also addressed the conference under the theme Promoting ASEAN Economic Community by Enhancing Public-Private Partnership, PPP.
Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng stressed the effectiveness of the Public-Private Partnership, or PPP model, in promoting globalization and dealing with climate change and poverty. He said the establishment of the ASEAN Economic Community will bring huge opportunities in trade, investment, and business, but also challenges in infrastructure development. The leader then shared Vietnam's experience of implementing the PPP model in recent years.
The PPP model will contribute significantly to ASEAN connectivity projects and enhance businesses' active participation in the development of the economic community. Firstly, we need government support for the PPP model. Secondly, we need to build a clear policy for PPP framework. Thirdly, we need to develop PPP projects with incentives for private investors and support the implementation of these projects.
Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng said the participation of international counterparts also plays an important role in promoting public-private partnerships in ASEAN. He expressed the hope that member countries and international organizations will continue to participate in PPP projects and promote the model in ASEAN countries.
Now, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng today also met with the Executive Chairman of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. He informed Schwab of the current economic situation here in Vietnam, with inflation being controlled at under 6% and economic growth estimated at around 5.8% this year. Now, Prime Minister Dũng also informed the WEF Chairman about the tensions in the EC, saying that China's placement of an oil rig and ships in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf seriously violate the international laws and the DOC. Schwab highly appreciated on his part the Vietnamese government's policies to control inflation and boost economic development. He also expressed concerns over the tensions in the EC, stressing that they need to be dealt with through dialogue. He added that the WEF is an important political channel for those which related sides could solve the tensions through peaceful measures. The EC issue was at the heart of Tuesday's hearing of the Committee for Foreign Affairs of the U.S. House of Representatives. At this hearing, the Department of State presented its foreign policy for the Asia-Pacific region in 2015.
Representatives at the hearing voiced their concern over China's oil rig installment in the East Sea and its use of vessels to ram and spray water cannons at Vietnamese vessels. They deemed such unilateral actions by China a threat to peace and security in the region. According to Assistant Secretary of State Daniel Russell, the U.S. condemns China's aggressive acts in the EC.
As part of a broader destabilizing escalatory pattern of behavior in which China is advancing its claims through non-diplomatic and extra-legal means, we have made no secret of our strong belief that China must use diplomacy, not brute force. We think the issue is not how strong is China. We think the issue is how strong is China's legal claim in the territorial disputes.
Representatives said that unless the U.S. government stepped in to make China act according to international law, China might continue its provocative actions, building tension with U.S. allies like Japan and the Philippines.
President Obama, through his recent visit to North and Southeast Asia, made very clear, not only in word but in deed, how committed the U.S. is to stability in the region and America's determination to stand by the principle.
According to the White House's proposal, the United States will reserve $1.2 billion for the implementation of its foreign policy in the Asia-Pacific region for the fiscal year 2015. This level is comparable to the 2014 budget.
Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng has laid out an action plan to support enterprises hurt by the recent incidents of public disorder in some localities, asking ministries and agencies nationwide to roll out the action plan guidelines as soon as possible. We have more details now in the following.
Under the Prime Minister's directives, the Foreign Ministry will be responsible for updating foreign countries on Vietnam's current situation, urging them to encourage firms to continue operating in Vietnam. People's committees in affected areas will work directly with each enterprise, lending support in administrative affairs and damage assessment. Prime Minister Dũng also directed the Ministry of Finance to offer guidance to insurance companies to verify the damage and provide appropriate and prompt compensation. The ministry has asked tax and customs agencies to offer tax cuts based on the real losses incurred by firms. Where applicable, firms will enjoy a reduction in import and export duties, value-added tax, income tax, and special consumption tax. The Ministry of Labor, War Invalids, and Social Affairs will instruct areas to cover labor shortages in affected firms. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Public Security will offer preferential treatment for companies that incur damages and require additional foreign workers. Finally, the State Bank of Vietnam will instruct credit organizations to remove obstacles in transactions and loans in order to help affected businesses.
Now, enterprises have shown their welcoming of the action plan by the Prime Minister, showing also their confidence in the investment environment here in Vietnam. A report now from Dong Nai Province takes a closer look.
At a meeting of foreign investors held on Wednesday in Dong Nai Province, enterprises from Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan all showed their determination to continue long-term operations in Vietnam. Following the public disorder, they resumed production quickly and treated workers well, showing their support for the Vietnamese government and people. The timely action plan of the Prime Minister of Vietnam also helped consolidate their confidence in the government.
We wanted to express our deep thanks to the Vietnamese government for their support and protection of Taiwanese people in Dong Nai Province. We are also very happy about the incentive policies related to custom procedures. We've called on other Taiwanese enterprises to stay in Vietnam.
Provincial authorities have helped enterprises overcome the consequences of incidents and resume production, while increasing security in the area. The province plans to spend about $5 million on this work.
We've issued guidelines to agencies at all levels to support foreign investors in Dong Nai Province. We will visit enterprises to help them qualify for tax breaks.
Many Taiwanese enterprises in Dong Nai province consider Vietnam as a second home, and around 90 have resumed operations following the Prime Minister's action, which showed the respect and support the Vietnamese government has for foreign investors.
The State Bank of Vietnam held a meeting on Wednesday with foreign credit institutions to discuss an action plan for the banking system. At the meeting, State Bank Governor Nguyễn Văn Bình confirmed that foreign banks will continue to enjoy favorable conditions here in Vietnam.
At the meetings, representatives from all 44 foreign credit institutions in Vietnam were reassured by the State Bank Governor that Vietnam's banking system remains stable despite the recent developments in the East Sea.
The financial markets, including the foreign exchange market and the gold market, have remained stable during the past few weeks. The whole banking system is operating normally and is able to withstand external difficulties.
Many foreign banks asserted that they continued to regard Vietnam as a long-term investment destination.
We will encourage our Chinese customers to keep investing their money in Vietnam. Thanks to support from the Vietnamese government and the State Bank, we intend to continue our operations in Vietnam.
As this year marks our 20th anniversary in Vietnam, I'd just like to comment that we look forward to receiving a renewal of our Hanoi branch license for the next 99 years, and I'd like to reiterate that we remain very committed to this market.
The State Bank Governor further pledged to ensure maximum securities for credit institutions in Vietnam.
The State Bank is prepared for any problem that may arise. We will do our utmost to maintain the stability of the financial markets. We will also ensure the safety of bank assets and protect the rights of foreign investors in Vietnam. Our goal is to uphold Vietnam's favorable business climate.
During the meeting, the State Bank Governor called upon all foreign banks to cooperate, thus keeping Vietnam's banking system stable for the mutual benefits of all parties.
Coming up here on VTV News Live, we'll take a look at the reduction of transaction costs in catfish exports to Europe. And then later on, it's off to the Giàn Island to see how they are preserving to preserve the sea. You're back here in our edition of VTV News Live. Among the targets that Vietnam's fisheries sector has set is aiming to lower the transaction costs of catfish exports to Europe. However, hardly any Vietnamese enterprises have the capacity to directly export produce to the European market. They still have to rely on foreign processors as well as distributors when it comes to marketing and labeling. The next report will bring you more details.
Vietnamese catfish can be found in supermarkets around Europe. However, all of them are labeled by European distribution companies, and it's difficult to see that Vietnam is the country of origin. Vietnamese catfish has to go through a host of intermediaries before it reaches these supermarkets. As a result, local seafood companies gain little profits despite the high price they are sold for in Europe.
Our customers are seafood importers. Their benefits are not associated with the quality of the products as much as its price. They are always looking for lower price produce, and consequently, Vietnamese companies have to lower their prices in order to sell. We can only change this situation if we find different customers, such as the final distribution point in the supply chain or the large European supermarkets and retailers.
Marketing is a weakness of Vietnamese seafood exporters, and most of them fail to focus on their anti-consumers in Europe. How do European consumers like their seafood to be packaged? How is seafood usually processed? These details are taken care of by foreign intermediaries, and that's why most of the profit ends up in their pockets.
It's very important to have a focus on the marketing. Before you used to have a focus on the production side. I mean, production is still very important. You have to look at the quality, but look at your consumers. What do they want? And to really also work closely with the retailers. And also have an influence on the retailers, so that you can market your product much better and maybe at a more expensive price, because currently the price is really down.
Unlike the United States, Europe does not raise a lot of catfish, so Vietnamese exports face less technical barriers and lobbying from European seafood producers. This makes it much easier to export catfish to the European market. The issue remains on how to convince European consumers to buy of high quality, tasty and easy to cook Vietnamese seafood. So local companies are now paying more attention to the anti-consumers in Europe.
It's been 5 years now since Cù Lao Chàm, right off of the coast of Quảng Nam, was recognized by UNESCO as a World Ecological Preservation Area. Earning this recognition was, however, not easy, but protecting and developing this preservation area has become even more difficult, especially educating locals about how to protect the maritime ecology of Cù Lao Chàm. Despite this, initial successes have been achieved.
Cù Lao Chàm has a population of 3,000, and half of them make a living from fishing. Staff from the Center for Sea Preservation works day and night to protect the hundreds of hectares of water in the core of the preservation area from infringements.
It is difficult to make a living, so I slip into this area to fish. I knew it was an infringement, but I need to earn money for my children. I won't do it again.
The Maritime Preservation Area was established in 2005 and covers over 200 square kilometers of sea, 165 hectares of which are coral reefs. Fishermen have been exploiting this area for years, so trying to make them understand the importance of preserving it is a challenge, and flexibility and discretion is necessary.
In accordance with the law, there is a 30 million Vietnamese dong fine for infringement in this area. But we still opt for broadcast and education, not only for the locals here, but the surrounding communes as well.
The sea provides a considerable income for islanders, but now tourism has become a major source of income. In peak season, tourists here outnumber locals. Hundreds of precious coral species and sea creatures are being protected here, and diving has become a trademark of Cù Lao Chàm. The biodiversity here is also highly regarded by scientists. Our success lies in protecting the coral reefs. We also try to help fishermen make a living. Conservation work at Cù Lao Chàm has contributed to the maritime economy, and local people are benefiting from it. It's hoped the initial success here will help Cù Lao Chàm to become a popular tourist destination in the sea.
Now, a photo contest by the name of For a Green Environment 2013 was organized by the Ho Chi Minh City Law newspaper, and the contest concluded this morning in the southern metropolis. Now, after 3 rounds, the first prize went to Picking Up Rubbish with a Love for Hanoi by Dương Văn Hai from the capital city. The competition drew the participation of more than 300 artists with around 1,200 photos, many of which showed high levels of sophistication. The contest has helped to introduce and praise individuals and organizations who have actively protected the environment, while also raising awareness among Vietnamese people about this issue. Now, a gala took place on Wednesday evening in Ho Chi Minh City to celebrate Vietnamese determination at the Phu Thọ Sports Competition Complex, attracting tens of thousands of people. The gala praised successful people who have faced very difficult living conditions.
This 62-year-old teacher had an accident 37 years ago that left him a wheelchair. But with his unfathomable determination, he went on lecturing and started to raise funds to buy more wheelchairs for people like him. Participating in the gala, he had a chance to boost his already incredible will and inspire people in difficulty to continue striving and contributing to the society.
Nỗ lực hơn nữa, giống như anh đã nói. Nói thật ra thì quý thời gian của tôi xét ra đúng là thì
Realistically, I do not have much time remaining in this life. Thus, I devote it to collecting wheelchairs for other unlucky people. I hope that the program makes them stronger and helps them find their happiness in life.
Chương trình này đó là sẽ giúp cho các bệnh nhân có một nghị lực sống dồi dào hơn để làm cho cuộc đời họ tươi vui hơn.
21 people were selected from the amazingly determined individuals writing contest and gathered at the gala together with the famous motivational speaker Nick Vujicic. The topic was hurdles and confrontations, with real, moving stories that conveyed real-life emotions to the audience. At the gala, invitees also shared their thoughts and perspectives on human determination.
There are many problems in the world. Even in the most politically stable countries, there are problems. There are 1 billion people going hungry all around the world. And so we just try to do our job in encouraging everyone in each city. And so I just hope that wherever I go in the world, that people within themselves feel that they know the truth of their value and the truth of their purpose, despite what others may say.
Started in November 2013, the Vietnamese Determination Sparkles program has received passionate support from all walks of life, especially young people. The gala served as a chance to review its achievements and convey the beautiful life values of living upright, undertaking responsibilities, and striving relentlessly.
Because I am a little man, we laugh because I'll start singing.
And now we'll go into our in-week edition of Vietnam Online.
Regional retail banks need to cooperate more closely to tackle challenges and promote microfinance to serve the underprivileged population. The message was among the key themes of the 20th World Saving Banks Institute Asia-Pacific Region Group meeting held on May the 21st in Hanoi. The two-day annual meeting gathered 80 bankers, managers, and financial activists from 20 countries in Asia-Pacific, Africa, Latin America. Bankers were urged to explore innovative business models such as mobile banking, mobile money, e-payments, and postal saving banks to facilitate the exchange of experience and international best practice to innovate and broaden the product range in rural areas. Business Times has quoted Razi Subramanian of logistics firm FedEx Services that Vietnam and several other emerging nations will be among the 20 largest economies by 2050. The US-based Subramanian, who spoke at an online seminar titled New Markets, New Opportunities held by FedEx on Monday, told Business Times that Vietnam typifies the strength that nearly all other emerging countries share: proximity to a huge market full of potential buyers, abundant natural resources and commodities to sell, as well as a young and increasingly well-educated population that is eager to work and has money to spend. For foodies, Vietnam is a dream trip. This is the title of an article for Guam Pacific News by Jojo Santos Thomas, a foodie, food writer, barbecue and Calaguan champion, and former restaurateur. In his write-up, Thomas summed up his trip to Vietnam with great appreciation for its food. He described everything from fruit, street food, and coffee to Vespa tours and fine cuisine. The article ended with the line, "We did not have enough stomach to eat everything we wanted."
The State Bank of Vietnam has picked FPT Information System Company, or FPTIS, as supplier for a core banking and budgetary planning package worth $9 million as part of a project to develop a mortgage management system. The package, which is also known as SG 3.1 in Vietnam, will focus on core banking, auditing applications, and systematic compatibility for the central bank.
The Information and Modernization Program of the Central Bank is costing $71.83 million and being financed by the World Bank. Multi-level marketing companies in Vietnam will have to put down more money and stop requiring their salespeople to buy into the jobs under a government decree that takes effect in July. It requires multi-level marketing companies, or MLM companies, to demonstrate a registered capital of at least 10 billion Vietnamese dong, or $470,000, and place tight controls on the company's sales systems. MLM companies will be banned from certain acts, including requiring salespeople to pay deposits or joining fees, offering them commissions and bonuses to recruit others, and prohibiting salespeople from returning merchandise. Last year, two-way trade between Vietnam and Russia hit nearly $4 billion, and in the first 3 months of this year alone, the figure has already reached over $1 billion, said Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade at a Russian Trade and Investment Promotion Conference held on May the 20th in Ho Chi Minh City. He pointed out that the sound relationship between the two countries, as well as forthcoming free trade agreement between Vietnam and the Russia-Belarus-Kazakhstan's customs union that will enable more Vietnamese goods to enter the Russian market.
And that wraps up our edition now. We'll wrap up now with the weather forecast. The weather forecast has also closed our edition of VTV News for today. We'll be back again at 6 p.m. for more updated news, and do log on to vtv4.vn to keep more updated. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you more in a bit.